Hey guys, I'm going to be going back to the Dream Wrath on level 99. This is going to be showing you a way to slow clear it. No modifiers. This is just going to be a simple clear that can get a clear in on level 99 if you can't OTK it. So this is relatively budget. I am using Roberta, which is a kind of a new unit, but I'm keeping the gear very minimal. Only a couple STMRs from this party, nothing premium, etc. No premium vision cards. So we're going to go ahead and get the clear in, and then I'll show you the gear and the team and explain you the basics so you can swap things out. So this is not going to be the quickest clear. Again, we're going for just, simple. But here you go. So with no modifiers, as long as your party is wearing sleep immunity, you won't get slept, which is totally fine. You don't need the Seraph Staff or anything like that. Make sure you're using the Obsidian Bracer from story mode to preemptively break the boss. That way the mana drain doesn't really do very much. Now we're using Runda for his mitigations, but he starts with auto cover, which we do not want. Also, the boss currently has this break immunity buff. So we're going to start laying in the base form. Shifter on turn 1. This is the first action of the turn. We're going to clean movement to AoE dispel everything. Specifically, that's going to get rid of the auto cover from Runda. Then we're going to Magnus and Passionate to fill LB gauge, so we can do Runda's LB on turn 1. If your Runda is EX2, maybe you ran him in the Shard Dungeon, or you're using this video next week when we're probably going to get EX2 Runda, he can LB on turn 1 right away, and you don't need that fill from Ling. But we're going to use Runda's LB on turn 1. That's going to be an 80% general and an 80% physical mitigation for the party. Now Beatrix is going to start in the base with a few auto buffs. Then we're going to shift, and we're going to cover magic, and we're going to Shelga for the magic mitigations. Now we have all the mitigations. We're going to use Kresnik to just start filling morale with Arcane Stimulant. Elena is going to just double cast. We're going to do Refragmentation for the resist buff, and then we're going to do Legendary Heroine to fill morale. Then Roberta in the shift form is going to triple. We're going to do Spear in Peril, Emissary of Demise, and we're going to hit the boss. You got to hit the boss with fire, ice, or light every single turn. She's wearing a fire weapon in the shift form, so that's going to seal the boss with fire damage. Okay, so some of the party is evading, some of the party is not. We've got mitigations though, so the physical damage shouldn't be too bad. We're passive provoking with Runda, and by the way, I should mention, when we dispelled, the boss's breaks were not dispelled because we are using Obsidian Bracer, which cannot be dispelled. So there you go. So turn 1 is going to be the worst turn by far. We didn't have all the mitigations up. So it looked a little bit scary. I promise you the rest of the fight is much easier to tank after turn 1. Okay, so Ling is going to go ahead and triple. This turn, we're going to do Human and Reaper Killer and Mitigation. We're also going to do a morale fill with Blithe Step. Elena is going to double here. We'll just go ahead and do both of the... actually, let's go ahead and do Blessing of the Azure and Legendary Heroine. Runda can triple. We're going to do Dark Resist with his cooldown. We're going to use Runda Laser to do a bit bigger break on the boss. And it doesn't really matter what else. We'll just Shelga. Doesn't really matter. Beatrix on this turn can heal the party. Let's go ahead and Saintly... Whoop. Nah, I'm doing this wrong. Hold on. Let's have Beatrix, Saintly Protection, and let's do a Curega to get some healing going. Kresnik this turn is going to Arcane Remedy for the immunity buff. And we'll go to the base form with Roberta, where she's going to Dragon for the stat buff. We're going to Fire Imbue and Mega Breath. And the Mega Breath will seal the boss with fire damage. So 2 turns of setup for Roberta, but she does a ton of damage, so she's going to take care of the rest of this starting turn 3. Now it is important that you get the boss below 50% by turn 5, or it's an auto loss. It's not that hard to do. So here's the single target stuff. As you see, the AoE physical damage has been reduced to like 300 damage a hit on the party, with Runda, Ling, Beatrix, etc. Very easy to survive this boss with no modifiers. I gave Kresnik some counterattack sources so he can fill LB gauge pretty easily. So he's countering with some LB fill. Alright, so Runda is going to do his LB here for mitigation again. Now we're going to use Kresnik's shifted LB this turn. That's going to perfect dispel the boss, which is kind of important here. So we're going to now go to the base form with Ling, where we're going to Blithe, and we're going to Disarming to break the boss. Beatrix doesn't really need much to do much here. Elena can just fill morale gauge with Beloved and Legendary. And we'll start chaining on the boss with Roberta as our single DPS. Now, if you don't have Roberta, you can use, you can actually drop Elena and just bring 2 DPS combos you want, like 2 chainers, you know, Yigni and Tiana, etc. But if you do have Roberta, then bringing a support unit is a little bit easier to handle. So, not much else to go on here. We'll just cover again and whatever with Beatrix. But as you can see, Roberta with budget gear is doing pretty good damage here. Now mine is EX3, which does give her more stats, etc. But it's still not that big a deal. As long as you push the threshold by turn 5, you're fine. And as you see, the damage we're taking is very minimal. Just maintain Runda's LB, maintain the shell +2 from Beatrix magic cover, and I'll go over unit swaps and all that in a moment. Let's go ahead and shift Ling. Actually, let's keep Ling in the base form for this turn, because I want to do triple moving Celestial, because we're going to push the threshold anyway. Alright, so Roberta will go ahead and push that threshold here. We'll use Elena to just fill morale gauge. We're going to get the spells. It doesn't really matter what else we do. Alright, we pushed the boss all the way to 25, which is a little bit further than I wanted, but it doesn't really matter that much. Let's go to the base form with Beatrix, and we're going to use Earthbreaker. If you don't have that, it's not that big a deal. He was already broken from Ling, but, you know, every little bit helps. Kresnik. Now, Kresnik is important. We're going to use Medicinal Antioxidant to cure the Imperils. Then we're going to Remedy and Supplement. And Runda, not much to do here. We can just Runda Laser and whatever. Now that I think about it, because we do have Runda Laser, the Earthbreaker was actually irrelevant, so I don't know why I used that. It did nothing, actually. Okay, here's the threshold. We're going to get slept. Then the boss is going to AoE and wake us up. Now, we've got Guts on the party, so we don't die, but I don't think we even technically need it. We didn't even need Guts, because we have no modifiers on, but Guts is a safety measure if you need it. Okay, so now we're going to use Runda to SLB. That's an 85% mitigation. Seems Beatrix is still sleeping. That's okay. We'll go ahead and wake her up. Let's use Medicinal to wake up Beatrix. Then we're going to Potion twice to heal the party. Because we do have a healing down reduction right now, because we didn't fill morale that well. That's okay, though. So we're going to shift Beatrix and go back to covering again. So we're going to cover and shell +2. Ling will shift this turn. And we're going to put up both the mitigations, Human and Reaper Killer. Let's put Roberta in the shift form, where we're going to triple. We're going to Spear Imperil again, re-imbue Fire, and we're going to hit the boss. Remember, you got to hit the boss every turn. Elena is going to double. We're going to Legendary and I guess Crystal Refragmentation. I don't think the boss even does elemental damage in phase 2, but just, you know, something to do, whatever. Okay, so because we pushed the boss below 25, he's going to get an attack and magic buff, but again, we're using like actual tanks, so Runda and Beatrix, not a big deal. Some single target stuff, and then a bunch of single target physical damage. The physical damage is irrelevant on our Runda. That's okay. Not to mention we have 85% general mitigation at this point. Okay, time to go back to dealing damage. We can just have Elena double. We'll Legendary and Blessing. Ling can go to the base form. Let's go ahead and reapply breaks. So we'll Blithe. Let's Disarming and Purifying. Beatrix can just double cover. I'm sorry, not double cover. Double Curaga. We'll use the base form LB of Kresnik. Runda can just do some stuff, you know, kind of whatever. And then this is like, you know, this is relatively simple. So we're going to Dragon, we're going to Mega, and I don't know if we did the Fire Imbue last time, so we're going to Dragon, whoops, Dragon, let's Fire Imbue, and let's Mega. Okay, so we're probably going to kill the boss next turn. Some more single target attacks on Runda, and then some magic single target on Runda as well that we're going to cover with Beatrix. Flesh Reap is bugged, it only deals 1 damage, so it's, you know, very easy to survive that. The boss isn't even doing magic damage. There we go, there's the magic damage. Yes, this clear isn't the quickest, but it should definitely get you guys a nice easy clear in with no modifiers if you can't OTK the boss. And I think that's basically it. So now we just chain it up with Runda, with this tag chain. Not Runda. What's your name? Tag this up with Roberta, and that's probably the end. If it's not, we'll go another turn. It may or may not be. Okay, it was. That was easy. So I'll show you the gear and explain a few swaps. So the only tricky things for the most part is that mitigation on turn 1, because the boss does a lot of damage right out of the gate. So getting your mitigations all up on the first turn can be a little tricky, but is definitely doable. And the other option is the threshold that I'll explain in a second. Okay. I did not get another red pearl. Got one already, though. So, we didn't use any modifiers, so that's you know, not a concern here. Make sure everyone is sleep immune, as well as someone is wearing the Obsidian Bracer. That's how you deal with the ambush. So we've got Beatrix in the base form. She's got 100 Dark Resist, and she's got Guts. I gave her Antiquated Uniform for Auto Mirage. That's not that big a deal. And I gave her Earthbreaker, literally pointless because I forgot that Runda could break, so this is absolutely not important. So 100 Dark Resist in the base form and Status Immunity. Shift form is just using some bulk, a little bit of evasion, not much at all. 100 Dark Resist and some Wind Resist as well. And that's the build we're using for Beatrix. You know, no STMRs unless they were completely free, like the Knights of Pluto is a free item. Yeah, so just some bulk. She can be replaced with any magical cover tank you want. Just a magical cover tank. I chose her because A, she was free, but also she can cast heals, which is convenient. Kresnik has some evasion in the shift form. We start in the shift form. Obsidian Bracer. I gave him Blizzard Orb so that he could counter with some LB fill. It makes keeping Runda's LB up easier. It's not really required. But he does have evasion in the shift form for the early turn. And then base form. The base form has 100 Dark Resist and Status Immunity. That's all that really matters. You don't really need evasion in the base form because by turn 2, all the mitigations are up and the physical damage is no longer a concern. Runda is our passive Provoker. And he's using some evasion. I don't think he's full evade. 60% evasion, you know, whatever. Passive provoke, 60% evasion, some dark resist, a little bit of LB fill, and he's just the provoker, and he provides mitigations. At EX2, he'd be a lot better for this, but we don't have that yet on global. So Ling started in the base form with evasion, 100 dark resist. That's really basically it. Call of the Wild, etc. Shift form, same thing. Evasion, 100 dark resist, and sleep immunity. Now I gave her a source of guts. The whole party wants guts for that threshold. We actually know because we had no modifiers on and the boss was broken. We didn't even really need guts because no one actually died to the threshold. But for safety, I recommend you do it. Ling does not have innate guts in both forms, so we gave her guts. Also, we gave guts to Kresnik, I think. Didn't we? Or does he have it innately? You know, I don't even know if he has it innately. He might have it innately. I forget why I didn't give him guts. Maybe I should have. I don't remember. But in any case, he may. I don't know. So Ling did the mitigations, killers, support, LB fill on turn 1 so that we can get Runda's LB on turn 1. Also so that we can dispel Runda's auto cover because we don't want him covering physical and then blocking Beatrix from covering. Elena didn't use the base form. Shift form, she's like basically a dead slot. Because I'm using Roberta, who's a tag chainer, Roberta didn't need a chainer friend. So I just grabbed Elena for more morale fill. She fills morale, literally all she did. She filled morale, whatever. Yeah, evasion, 100 dark resist, she has guts naturally. And then Roberta started in the shift form with status immunity, full evasion for turn 1, and a fire weapon, so we can seal the boss on turn 1. Because we don't want to waste an action imbuing on turn 1, so there we go. That's pretty much it. You know, evasion, sleep immunity. There we go. Base form. I'm only using 1 copy of the STMR because, you know, maybe you only have an EX1 or an EX2 Roberta. You don't have a second copy of the STMR. So I gave her a wind spear for the offhand, a free item. Guts and 100 dark resist is a little bit important. Golbez's armor, and we're on Diablos for the dark resist. That's how we're getting that. And then killers versus humans and reapers. Her own personal card. We're not using the banner cards. Maxed Reaper and 225 human. Now, as you saw, we pushed the threshold on turn 4 an entire turn early. So if yours is not as well geared, yours is not EX3, it's not a big deal. You'll do less damage, but it doesn't really matter that much. You could also swap Relena for another capper and just bring more DPS if you're having problems with the threshold. So just take it slow. Don't go for, like, you know, if you can OTK the boss, by all means go for it. You definitely do it. But if you can't, a slow clear is very, very approachable. Just get those mitigations up on turn 1. That's the big key here. Magical cover tank, run to for turn 1 physical mitigations and general mitigation, and break the boss, etc. Keep the boss broken. Don't forget the boss does cure his breaks every few turns. You need to re-break him every time. And there you go. So this was like the budget run. You could you could replace Roberta with 2 chainers, Roberta and Elena. So now I'll probably be spending the next few days trying to think of a way to high score without using Chow. That's the next goal. It probably won't be a rank 1 video, but it'll be a high score video, but it won't use Chow in my next clear. That's the plan, at least. We'll see. Anyway, see you next time.